Welcome to the cockpit of a Spitfire Mark 9. This aeroplane is almost identical to the Spitfire we'll be flying around the world next year for IWC's longest flight expedition. My name's Matt Jones, I'm a Spitfire pilot and co-founder of Boltby Flight Academy. I'm going to show you around the cockpit quickly and give you a quick tour. On the top left we have the airspeed indicator. The airspeed indicator is really important to us because it's airspeed information that tells us when and where the aeroplane will fall out of the sky, and obviously we don't want to do that. The aeroplane can fly between 60 and 400 miles an hour, but for the purpose of this trip we'll be aiming to keep it about 210 miles an hour. Why? Because that's the most efficient speed to fly the aeroplane to reduce the fuel burn and give us the longest range possible. And range is something you'll hear me say quite a few times as I show you around the cockpit. It's really important to us because we're going a long way. Over on the right hand side, you'll see the fuel gauges. Actually on this aircraft there's only one, but on the Spitfire we'll be flying, there'll be four, as we've had lots of extra fuel tanks added. Again, because we want to extend the range. Our longest flight is about 450 nautical miles, which is the absolute limit that this aeroplane would be able to fly without that additional fuel being added. So we want to have lots of reserves in case things go wrong and we have to turn around and go back. So the fuel gauge is something we're going to be looking at quite a lot. In the top right hand corner here we have two engine gauges. The top one is the RPM gauge, and that tells us how quickly the engine's turning. And the second one here is the boost gauge, and that tells us how much power we're putting into the engine. By manipulating those, we can again make sure that we're using as little fuel as humanly possible to give us the longest range again, and to make sure that we have as much time and we can get as far as we need to go. And finally, if we have a look down at the bottom left here, we have the altimeter. The altimeter obviously tells us how high we are, and most of the time we'll be between 1,500 and 3,000 feet above the ground. At that kind of height you can really tell how high you are, so you don't really need the gauge. But there may be occasions where we need to climb. Why? Well, the higher you go, again, the less fuel you burn. So if we have a particularly long leg, it may be worth us climbing up to, say, 20,000 feet. While at 20,000 feet, again, our fuel burn will reduce by about a third, and therefore our range will increase by about a third. So it's an important consideration. We're not planning to do that all the time, of course, because we want to stay close to the ground to really be able to see it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Now we're going to try a start. Now to start the engine. First thing we're going to do, making sure that the fuel cutoff is back, we're going to put the fuel pump on. This puts some pressure into the carburetor and also turns the fuel pressure light out on the right hand side of the cockpit. And the lights come back on. That's correct. Fuel cutoff now goes forward, and then we're going to prime. The engine's cold, so it'll need about 6 hard primes. The first ones are soft. There's the first hard. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we'll get clearance from the tower. Go tower, good afternoon. Spitfire Golf Bravo Romeo Sierra Foxtrot, hangar 8, 1 POB, request engine start for run only.
Spitfire Golf Bravo Romeo Sierra Foxtrot, good information, good afternoon to you. Engine start approved, the QNH is 1003.
AFO.
Roger.
So the next thing, uncage the two switch covers. Have a look around and make sure there's no one around us. Set the throttle. Left hand on the mag switches and using my legs to hold the stick back. Clear prop! Here we go. So the right button is the boost button, the left button is the start button. The right button, the boost, showers sparks into each of the cylinders to help the engine start, while the left button turns the engine over. Here we go.